Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I am your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn how to overcome adversity, depict fact versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Today, we have a very special guest on, Coach Alex Ray. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Super excited to get into this topic with you. And for a lot of people, I believe, just based upon where this is going to go, it's going to be life-changing. It's a different side of health and fitness, which we've talked about a couple times before in our show, but I believe it's so important that we're going to do it even better this time.
Can't wait.
Super ecstatic. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, let our audience know about why did you become a coach? Where did this all start from?
Yeah. So I started coaching in nutrition and fitness back in I think it was like 2016, 2017. It was 2017. It was January that year. So I had a really incredible transformation in the previous 2 years physically. As a kid, I was a really, really scrawny stick. And
I was in the same boat as you.
yeah.
And everyone makes fun of me. They're like, hey, it's not fair. You were never that fat kid. Yeah, I was the skinny kid that was yelled at by doctors to go on weight gainers and ran a 15-minute mile. So
right. I don't think there's a lot of info out there for people that have trouble gaining either. And I think the info that's out there, the info that I found anyway during my journey was garbage. It was like, drink a mass gainer, which I tried for a little while, but I puked every other time I drank it because it was just actual garbage. So I'd highly recommend you never try that. You can just eat more food. It's way more effective and way better for your body.
Which is harder than most people think it is.
It is.
Especially when you're trying to eat clean and get 4,000 to 5,000 calories. It's hard.
Yeah. So I had the first big calorie goal that I jumped to was 3,000, and I had a personal trainer that was like, you gotta do this, you can do it. And it was very hard at first, but you know what? It was just hard because it was new. After a couple months, it just became the new norm. And then I upped it again I can't remember how long later. I think it was less than a year later. I upped it to 4,000. And by this time I was doing CrossFit, and I was really then seeing a lot of gains quickly. And then of course, the other thing, like following it up with a proper post-workout supplement instead of the cheap garbage that I used to take, that really helped. But 3-4 years into working on my own fitness personally, January 2017 hits, and I'm like, I have all this information. I have people asking me, how did I do it? I want help. And I said, okay, let's start coaching. I'm going to do it online. And so I was working a full-time job at the time, and this was just kind of a passion project, was helping people, and I was doing it all for free.
Wow.
Yeah. That's where the insecurity comes in later, right? But the most important part, I think, about my journey was the reason that I started in the first place was because I was very insecure. I was really insecure about my body in particular, and I thought if I could change my body, then I would become more confident. So I looked at myself as weak because I was physically weak. And I thought if I built muscle, then I would become physically strong, which would in turn make me mentally strong and confident.
Yeah, really. I'm going to interrupt to just give people a little backstory. When I had the same issue as you did, and it was, hey, you kind of get picked on a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
people take advantage of the fact that, you know, you're this little tiny 150 soaking wet 6'2" guy, and they can just kind of poke you over
Yes.
and fall. So
Yeah.
I started working
I'm
out.
tall too. I'm 6'4". So there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah,
We're like the same
exactly.
person.
The same person exactly over here. And it's like people just constantly made fun of you for it all the time. And you would
Mm-hmm.
think, like, I was shy when I was younger, and a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't believe me, but yeah, I was really shy. And I thought working out and I never forget, I started doing bicep curls with milk jugs because we didn't have weights.
There you go.
I thought that was the answer. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until like a year into it where I was never got into fitness at that age. So I learned it was actually more the mental side of it as opposed to the physical side of it. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I think the first time I ever stepped into a gym, I was 19 years old. I had never been in one before that because I was so intimidated by the gym culture. Not that I really knew much of it, but I just knew what I had seen on TV and what I had heard from people. And it sounded terrifying to go step into this room with all these people that knew what they were doing, looked good doing it. And here I am, like, and I got nothing. I could maybe lift the 10-pound dumbbell, right?
Yeah, you're just
Like,
like
right.
5 pounds.
So I was really terrified, but I decided to do it anyway. And I had a friend that we were like that was the very first time I started working out, and worked out with friends for a few months. Then I had a personal trainer for a few months. Actually, I think I worked out with friends for about a year. Then was the personal trainer. Then was a break for a while, like 6 months of no working out at all. And then I was like, I'm going to try CrossFit because I can't afford a one-on-one trainer. Um, but I've heard that CrossFit sounds fun, and I want to be around people. So, and that's when for me it really took off. It's not for everyone. Never want to push people into that. I love that fitness is super diverse. There's so many things you can do. So do the one that fits your personality and that you're gonna have fun with.
Absolutely. Do what gets you moving. That's what we always say.
Yes.
I don't care what it is.
Yeah. It could just literally be walking down the street every day.
Exactly. It's park 2 spots further. Start there.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Um, okay, so I guess the next piece for me. So in 2017, I started coaching, um, and then I, by the end of or by the middle of the year, I was stuck so deeply in depression, which I had started seeing a therapist when I was in second grade because I told my parents that I wanted to die. And so I was in and out of therapy for all my life and until then. Like it would be a few years out, few months on, few years out again. Um, and meanwhile, like I'm using all this other stuff. I'm using work. I was working a ton of hours. I had started this, free coaching online to help other people. I was working on my own body. Like I was literally working out 3 hours a day, one in the
Wow.
morning, two in the evening. Um, and then would spend 6 to 8 hours when I got home working on the coaching business. But I say business, but it wasn't bringing in any money, so it really wasn't even a business yet.
Not for profit business.
Yeah, my little nonprofit. Um, so by like summer 2017, I was sleeping about 4 hours a night on the regular, and then getting up, work out, work, home, or back to the gym, and then working all night.
Wow.
Not healthy.
No.
Super, super bad, especially with dealing with depression. And so, in by the fall of 2017, I had really hit total rock bottom. The only reason I really felt like I was living anymore was just for this guy that I was dating at the time. I had already during the summer, I was like, I'm so empty. I hate myself. I hate life. I don't want to be here anymore. Um, and when he and I broke up, I was like, that's it. Finally, I can do what I've been wanting to do my whole life. Like since I was 13, I had been planning and scheming. And so um, I attempted to end my life.
Wow.
Thankfully, ended up in the hospital.
That's a
And
tough thing to admit, man.
yeah, I'm very upfront and honest about it though on my social media and podcasts. Like I don't talk about it regularly, but it's every now and then I'm like, hey, I need to just talk about this story a little bit and let people know that you're not alone.
You know what? Even I'm same boat. So
Hmm.
I get it completely.
Yeah,
But that to me was the turning point of life.
same.
That was like I've told everyone, when you hit bottom, and I don't mean this fake facade, life is stressful bottom. I
Right,
mean as bottom as me and you got, like, this is the end
right,
bottom,
right.
is when you go back to that moment, you get this new sense of courage that,
Hmm.
nothing's as bad as that was. So, and
Nothing.
you're nothing, zero in the world. And
Yeah.
only people who've been there can understand that. But
Hmm.
on the flip side, having the mindset to take control of myself, and I'm sure you're the same
Hmm.
scenario, that has taught me to go above and beyond. And I pushed
Hmm.
myself to be a better version of me ever since that day. And it
Hmm.
is night and day difference of where I was to where I am now. And I'm sure you feel the exact same thing. Like, hey, when people
Yeah.
you hit bottom, you're like, that's it. There's hope. And not only is there hope, you're going to have this sense that the little things aren't going to bother you anymore, that you're going to end up being even better than everybody else. And you're going to feel so confident about yourself that you're going to take a look back and say, wow, look at what I've done. And look what no one else has done, because no one else has experienced what I experienced. And I truly believe that.
Mm. Yeah. So for me, it was like once I hit that point, it was time to get really real with my therapist and like admit the things. Because I don't know about you, like if you've ever done therapy, but I have talked to others. Once I've shared this, other people have sent me messages on Instagram and they're like, I do the same thing where I used to feel like I was a burden even to my therapist. So I didn't want to be fully honest with her. So there are certain things I shared with her, but other things that I held back. After that, all the walls came off, or all the walls came down. And I was like, let's open up. That's when the healing started. That's when I really found that it was not my body that could ever create this feeling of confidence that I was looking for. It was not my work or accomplishments in the gym or in life or finances or whatever. None of those things were going to create the sense of self worth that I was looking for. And I realized I had to start with that. And then all the other things could just be like fun. Like
You know
if
what? I never saw a therapist. I actually did the
Mhm.
thing you're not supposed to do. I kept it bottled up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's not like the opposite of what my mom,
Hmm.
to be like, I was always open with my mom. And I guess if anyone, like, maybe she was my therapist in a
Hmm.
sense, but having that relationship with my parents, and at least being able to talk to them, like, they didn't know what happened until recently. I told them because they heard it on a
Mm.
podcast. Awkward.
Right.
But it's just like, I don't want to hurt their feelings and I don't want to be a burden to them. And
Mm.
what happened was, I never opened up to anybody else, but I opened up to myself. And I feel
Mm.
like that's a very
That's huge.
similar point where I never followed through. I
Yeah.
got to that point and then I said, what the are you
Yeah.
doing, Anthony? Take a
Yeah.
step back. And then actually that night, I tell the story a lot, and I always talk about the power of the mind. Where,
Hmm.
like I said, I was shy. I wouldn't talk to a fly. I was so nervous.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had no friends, couldn't talk to anybody. And I remember I laid in bed and I just was staring at the ceiling and I was like, okay, I can't do that route, I'm not doing it. I love my family too much. So
Yeah.
what's the opposite route I can take? So I laid in bed and I repeated this phrase because I learned you could train your brain to start thinking differently. And I
Mm-hmm.
over, I am confident, I'm happy. I'm confident, I'm happy. I'm confident, I'm happy. And
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. But when you start saying something
Yeah.
10,000 times, 100,000 times, a million times, I woke up the next day and I'll never forget through the hallways of the school between every class, I was saying this in my head over and 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 over again. And what I
Mm-hmm.
started realizing is I started believing it.
Yeah.
And then I would do a little outburst where I would actually say hi to somebody, which I never would have in a million years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But I still felt nervous. So I started repeating it again and again and again. And then
Yeah.
over time, what happened was I started believing that. I
Yeah.
started feeling confident, started feeling
Mhm.
happier, and it was all uphill from there.
Yes. Yeah.
So, power of the brain right here, this
Yeah.
controls everything.
Everything. And we think that, our circumstances or other people make us feel certain ways, good, bad, whatever. It's not. It's always our thoughts that create our feelings. We have thoughts about the circumstances, but the circumstance itself didn't create the feeling. Um, and realizing that, like, my body being a circumstance did not create confidence or lack of confidence. It was, and working and all that, none of that created how I felt. All of it had to do with my thoughts about it. So the next year, like, that was in the fall of 2017, when I got back on my feet, started doing the coaching again, and ended up deciding in like April or May the following year, uh, I said, I can't handle both of these anymore. And I'd rather, like, go broke trying to build this into an actual business and coaching people and doing what I freaking love than work this job that I do not enjoy. So I did it. I pulled the trigger. I sold my car. I moved home with my parents, and that first year I made only $8,000. Not a lot of
I
money, but
get
you
it.
know what? It covered groceries, and I really didn't have any other expenses. It was fine. I mean, other than, like, cell phone, car insurance, all the basics. Um, and there we go. 2018 was a total change, and I started showing up totally differently too with my coaching. Not near the level I am at now, obviously, but it was a new realization where before I knew that I could help people because I was that person who thought I was incapable and became capable. Then I realized, after hitting rock bottom, I was also, like, it wasn't up to the body to get the results, it was up to the mind. And I realized that for my clients, and why I was having clients get you know have maybe some change, then get discouraged and quit. Like, they were having trouble following through to the end, they were having trouble getting the result that they wanted. And it was because we kept trying to work on their body in order to feel good,
Mm, yeah.
instead of working on their mind, feel good, and work on the body.
Yeah. It's so related that it's hard to not talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of people, they get into fitness and start working out because they're trying to fix an internal struggle they're having with their own emotions and mental health, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking that if I have that nicer body, if I have that six pack abs and
Yeah.
little butt lift, then like I'm good, you know?
Good to go.
But it's so not the case. And if you want to talk about examples, look at the amount of celebrities that are super depressed.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the money in the world, they have the bodies they want, but yet we still hear about them committing suicide, the amount of therapy sessions they go through, and how much of a mental impact it has on their lives because they're not happy. because to them, they didn't do the one thing you're supposed to do. It's not appease others, it's appease yourself.
Right.
And only you can make you happy.
Yeah. It's like the oxygen mask on an airplane, right? You're supposed to put on the mask for yourself before you go and put it onto other people. If you
I
go
like
trying to
that.
put everyone else's masks on for them, like let's pretend that's a whole airplane packed with people that have no arms. They can't put the mask on themselves, right? If you go and try to do that for the other people in the plane, you might get to like 4 or 5, maybe 10 people, and then you're going to pass out. Versus if you go and put the mask on yourself first, you could help all the people on the whole plane. And so that was a huge change of realizing like, oh wait, I'm doing this all wrong. I'm looking to help other people to earn my value. And instead I needed to realize that all of us are 100% valuable, every single human life, 100% worthy of love. There's not anything I could possibly do, nothing that anyone could possibly do to make them more or less worthy. And so from that standpoint, it was like, great, let's work on then my beliefs about me. And when then I can also go and help other people do the same thing. And more just so, again, out of love and wanting to help other people have the same change if they want it, to just be an example of what's possible, instead of like what I started with of, well, if I can help people, then I'll be worthy.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a little bit about life coaching, get a little bit more specific. So I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to tell you an analogy that I always use, and I want to see your thoughts behind it. So I'll tell you what it is. I'll give you
Yeah.
my reasoning, and then I want to get some feedback over it.
Yeah.
Something I learned recently in the last, I mean, this is always a constant thing learning. About the last 6 months, and it's something I've been really trying to push out because I firmly believe in it. And it's this take blame,
Mm-hmm.
where it's important for us as people to take blame for everything that happens in our lives. And I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, everything's my fault, so let me shut down. I mean it
Mm-hmm.
as take blame so you can then control the situation. Because when you start putting blame onto others, if I start saying, Alex, coronavirus is your fault, that
Mm-hmm.
might make me feel better initially right then and there. But in the long term, what's going to happen is I'm just going to be so stressed out because I no longer have control. I gave the control to you.
Mm-hmm.
Where if I go ahead and say, hey, Anthony, coronavirus is my fault, now I can sit back and say, okay, it's my fault. How do I fix it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to help people, especially in this crazy year we've been having, just in everything in general. 2020 has set records on everything. I'm a weather nerd for people that don't know that, but hurricanes, oh my God, what we've had so far. But like, you take blame for everything because you know what? You could have done something about everything. I could have become an epidemiologist and studied coronaviruses because they were around for thousands of years and help maybe get a vaccine. You know what? Maybe I could have done better with obesity is the highest linked thing for this. So maybe I could have done better in my field and getting the word out. And that's one of the reasons I started this podcast, because I took
There you
blame
go.
for it and now I'm pushing it out to the people because I don't want this happening again.
Mm-hmm.
It's because this is not okay. Like, it affects me personally. My business was shut down for 5 months. It's not the government's fault. It's my fault for not learning how to pivot my business.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have done things differently just in case we were shut down. I should have
Mm-hmm.
had a game plan. Hey, what happens if the business gets closed for 5 months? What do you do? Why didn't I have an emergency plan? That's
Mm-hmm.
my fault. Now I can fix it. And now I can pivot. And that's why I only had 12 hours of a breakdown during this back in March, when the
Mm-hmm.
day of I was told to close your doors. You got 10 hours to get out. Like that 12 hours that day, it was a wreck. I've been great since then. The next
Yeah.
day I woke up and it's been full steam ahead going
Yeah.
forward through this. And I think it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I can't complain. But I want to hear what you think about this. Talk about how you would coach with someone, or if this is something you'd recommend, and how you feel about the take blame analogy.
Yeah. So I agree with you on a lot of levels there, where the um 100% we're always responsible for our feelings, and I think that's one of the things that we uh don't learn very well in our society. We do have a lot of blame shifting and victim mentality around things, like that's your it's like you said, it's the government's fault that that maybe feel so overwhelmed because they made me shut down my business. So 100% of the time we're always responsible for our own feelings. There's not really an exception to that. And so when you realize that, then you can also change it if you want to. You can also not feel bad about feeling bad. And I think a lot of times we get into a mode of like judging ourselves of, why do I feel this way? If Alex and Anthony told me that I'm responsible for how I feel. Well, I don't want to feel like shit. So how do I it's my fault that I feel it? Like, realize whatever, take a breath, think about why you're feeling that way, and then maybe even just allow it. That's one of the most helpful things sometimes. I tell my clients, like, quit trying to rush to feeling good. Life is 50-50. You're going to feel awful sometimes. But if you allow it and you're like, hey, I just feel awful about this, it takes away all the drama and you're like, oh, I just feel awful. Okay, and next.
Yeah, it's really
Feel
funny
awful.
you bring that up, because literally the last 2 days I felt like shit, and I
Mm-hmm.
just felt bothered and annoyed. And my fiance keeps telling me, she's like, "What's wrong, Anthony?" And I was like, "Nothing. I'm just bothered."
Right.
But it's like, it's okay. I'm 90% of the time I'm in a great mood and super energetic. But even me, I take days where I just don't talk to me.
Right.
Everything pisses me off.
Right.
But it's okay, because you know what? No one can be 100% all the time. Like you said, it's kind of
Mm.
that mental burnout. You can't be full steam ahead, because then you're going to burn out quickly.
Yeah.
Instead, take some steps forward, one step back, three
Yeah.
steps forward, one step back. You're still going to go
Yeah.
forward, but you're going to feel a lot more rejuvenated than crash.
Right. Yeah. Um, and then he said, like, I should have had a plan. And the one thing, and I think you already mean this, but I want to clarify it.
Sure.
Like, I I like to be like radically compassionate with myself with those things. And the shoulds, when we start getting into I should have done this and shoulding on ourselves, it's like a whole shame game that we end up having to play, instead of realizing like, yeah, you could have had a plan. You totally could have. You had no idea that this was going to happen. So, like, you didn't prepare. So it's kind of like, one, you're taking responsibility for it. Like, it's not anyone else's fault that you didn't have a plan to pivot your business. That's totally on you. But also, like, well, I'm not going to sit here and feel like an idiot for not thinking of that, because I never had an idea that there was going to be a pandemic. I never had that thought cross my mind. So, of course, I never made this preparation. That, I think, is the most helpful way to move past it. Take the responsibility, but don't look at yourself like, I'm an idiot, I should have known.
No, no, that's good. Yeah, you
And I think
definitely.
that's probably what you're saying already. But
That's what I meant, and I
yeah,
appreciate your clarification. Like, so you're explaining it to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that.
yeah.
Well, I don't have the I should have, could have, would have.
Hmm.
It's maybe we clarify it a little more further, where it's, what can I do now? Now that this has
Yeah.
happened, what can I do now? Where
Hmm.
you're learning how to pivot through a scenario. Here's a situation, write it out.
Hmm.
This happened. All right, I take responsibility for it. Now, what can I do to fix it?
Yep. There you go. Exactly. I love that you also mentioned writing it out. I think that's something that a lot of people don't think to do. And it's so freaking helpful. Because in your
Well,
brain.
let me clarify. I don't write. My handwriting is
Oh, really?
shit. I write it out mentally.
Okay, there you go.
But it's like, I'm just wondering, there you can do both. There's people that
Mhm,
need to write and see, but if I
mhm.
wrote, it would take me 25 minutes to read my own handwriting. So no one else is reading it.
I love it.
So to me, I mentally write it and store it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can also, if you can learn to do that, that's another great asset. But I'm still writing. I'm just
Yeah.
doing it mentally.
Yeah. I th- it's about getting it out of like the mind drama though, because what I hear so much of people right now with the pandemic is like we start with pandemic and then we start adding all of these thoughts and beliefs onto it, and before you know it, it's this giant overwhelming life-changing thing. The world is ending in about 5 minutes, I'm sure of it, right? Instead, if you can write it out mentally like you do, or what I personally do is I will take paper if it's anything that I'm really feeling very overwhelmed about, and I will just do a thought dump and I'll write it all out, because when you can see it, it's like every time consistently when I do this, it's like only half a sheet of paper. I'm like, I have been this freaked out and overwhelmed by something that is half a sheet of paper. What the hell? And it takes all the what feels so overwhelming in my brain and allows me to go, okay, I got this. I could totally do this.
I like that, where when you do write it out like that, you're taking such a big thing and you have all these what ifs in your head, but then you write it out, you're like, oh, maybe I'm just repeating the same 5 words over and over and over again in my head.
Yeah, right. So like you did with I'm confident, I'm happy, our brain like prefers to do with negative things, and it's a survival instinct that we have as humans. Nothing's gone wrong, it's just that our brain likes to take the negative and blow it up really big.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You're in the jungle, right?
Hmm.
And you're this happy-go-lucky, like, I'm great, blah blah blah, and then before you know it, a saber-tooth tiger jumps out of the woods and kills you,
Right.
because you were just like, I don't need to worry about listening to the sticks break around me, as
Right.
opposed to someone who's, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, oh my god, a stick, and they run because they heard the
Right.
stick break, and then maybe they save themselves from getting attacked by that tiger and dying and being that tiger's lunch. And you're like, that person passed on their genes. The person who was like, I got this cliff with no equipment, and
Right.
didn't.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but we don't have those stressors anymore.
Yeah.
Our brain doesn't know that.
Exactly.
Our animalistic brain does not know anything about
Hmm.
that. It is like, pass on your genes, survive. Pass on my genes, survive. Pass on my genes, food, water, shelter. Where are they?
Right.
Where are they? Okay, good, good, good. Where then our
Yeah.
frontal lobe has to kick in, which until recently it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Where it's like, all right, calm down,
Hmm.
back part of your brain, please.
Right.
Let's take this cortex and let's kind of trickle it down to the frontal lobe. Oh, you know what? There's no more tigers in the wild that are going to eat us. Well, maybe it
Hmm.
depends where you are, but I mean, here
Yeah.
in Long Island, there's definitely not. Maybe deer, but they
Yeah.
run away from you first. And it's just like, okay, this isn't so bad. And then kind of
Hmm.
real to break it down, like, this isn't going to kill me.
Yeah.
Be worried about the shit that's going to kill you in a second. Then be worried about the things that might hurt your feelings for all of 30 seconds or longer if you let it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where like humans are unique in that we can plan for the future with that prefrontal cortex. We can actually take, where do I want to be? Right. So, like in fitness, I want to lose some fat, I want to gain some muscle, I want to increase my lift, or I want to, whatever goal that you're creating for yourself, that's in the future. And your brain can create a plan to get there. Um, what our brain doesn't do well is like staying with that plan, and then we like to, because we are programmed for instant gratification or the instant running from fear to survive. So that's where I found that most of my clients struggled with their meal planning and everything, was like the reason to do the meal plan is to use that prefrontal cortex to plan your food ahead of time when you're not in the mode of instant gratification. Later, when you're actually following through with it, it's challenging and it's hard for your mind. But understanding this concept, it's like, oh, yeah, my biggest enemy right now is following what seems easy or seems right in the moment. Go with what you planned out for yourself, because with your prefrontal cortex, you were planning something kind for yourself in the future. And now your job is just to follow through with it.
I want to jump in on this instant gratification because this is my next study topic.
Yeah.
Is there a relationship between people who work out consistently and can plan to where they want to be with their fitness goals to where they want to be with their life goals? And I mean this as in the gym, you do a workout, your results don't really show for like 3 to 6 months, 3 months
Yep.
at like minimum.
Yeah.
But you learned that. And as someone that's been working out myself for 5-6 years, it's like, yeah, I know that what I do now will reflect 6 months down the road, but I could take that same function and apply it to my life, where what I'm doing now, I'm not going to make millions off of and all of a sudden be rich living on a yacht.
Right.
But if I want to get there and I break it down to small obtainable goals and do that same thing I would do in the gym, take those small steps up, eventually I can be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only trouble is I think that sometimes people fail to make that connection consciously. And I think, like, thank goodness you're listening to this podcast right now, because what Anthony just said is going to change your whole damn life. If you can do it in the gym, you can absolutely do it in any other area of your life.
I love by the way, I just want to point this out for those that listen to my show. I do my own motivational speeches on my show now because I love doing them.
Awesome.
But you learn so much from listening to outside sources, and I make up my own and do it. But you take a goal. Let's say my goal, I'll give you my goal for this year. Before Corona, by the way, was be debt-free. So what I did was January 2nd, I wrote out how much money I was in debt. And then I divided that by the 12 months. And then for each month, divided that by 4.3 to get the weeks in it. Or just divided by 52, whatever it was. So I had a number that might have looked really intimidating, but that when I broke it down to by day and then turned it into how many clients I need to sign up, it's like, oh, wow, that's really not bad.
Right.
Like it's one person a day. How hard can that be? So now I can go on and say, all right, my goal for today is to get a sign up. And then I'll be happy. I'm happy now because I accomplished my goal and I'm en route to a bigger goal. And as we learned is I'm not sure if you know this, but with our brain chemicals, dopamine only gets released when we feel like we're close to attaining a goal, not after achieving it. So it's in the process of this. I'm in the process of becoming debt-free. So my dopamine hits I'm getting and I'm feeling better about myself. And I'm just only hitting these little 1% tiers. Just going up by 1%. It's actually less than that because there's 365 days. So 0.33%, I'm going up to hit my goal every day, which when you break it down like that, it's like, wow.
Right. Yeah.
That's so much easier. Why haven't I done this? Instead of getting lost where it's like, where did 5 years go? I'm still making $40,000 a year. I'm miserable and I hate my life. It's maybe if I made myself 0.33%, which might take you 5 minutes in some cases.
Right.
Every day in 5 years, it'd be like, that's it.
Right.
I feel great, man. A plus.
Yes. Yes. Totally. And you're getting to feel good along the whole way. That's the other thing is a lot of what I was experiencing with when I was doing coaching and fitness and nutrition was that my clients were waiting to feel good about their accomplishment once they hit their goal weight. And that can just be so frustrating and so draining if you wait to feel good about it. Like, you need to be celebrating every single win along the way. Like you said, breaking it down into really small chunks so that so you're constantly winning and celebrating those wins. Like, hell yes, I just signed a client. Hell yes, I just lost half a pound. Hell
I
yes, I
actually hate.
just followed the meal plan for one meal.
I want to point this out just specifically for health and fitness relation. I hate weight goals
Yeah,
with a burning passion because weight is not related to happiness. Weight isn't related to how healthy you are, not at all.
right.
So hate is understand. I'd rather you tell me as a client, my goal is to work out 5 days this week for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that. You know what's going
Mm-hmm.
to happen? You're going to hit that weight or that body fat regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of obsessing over a scale, because your body can fluctuate 5 pounds a day, just depending if you went to the bathroom this morning or not, like
Right.
wake up. It's more about those small victories. How much easier does it sound? Like I worked out for 20 minutes today. That
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a way better goal than I need to lose 5 pounds this month or 10
Right.
pounds this month, where you're just going to get disheartened constantly weighing yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
if you just diet and you exercise and you follow those little tiny goals, oh my gosh, I went out one less day this week
Mm-hmm.
and actually home cooked.
Yep.
It's going to fall off. And then
Yes.
before you know it, after 6 months, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, look at the difference.
Mm-hmm. It
And you didn't
changes
obsess over it.
everything.
Everything. Absolutely everything. And it's just, I get very emotional about this because I'm sure like you do. It's just like, shit, I've been there. Like, wake up.
Mm-hmm.
See, once you open your eyes and stop feeling so gloomy and start being focused, the
Mm-hmm.
world becomes way more manageable. The world becomes way more easier to navigate. You just you start seeing things and paths that you were blinded to before. There's been so many cases like running a business. I get so caught up in little odds and ends things and I get so focused on just making it big that I miss the little chances and little paths and pivots
Mm-hmm.
to day-to-day activities.
Yep.
And that's what I've learned recently. I think that's been my business success with myself. Because to me, it's not about the money, which I'm sure is the same thing for you.
Yeah.
It's about being able to help other people and being able to pass the message on. And I've seen a difference in that.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel successful.
Yeah. I kind of think about the money almost like the scale. It's like a tool to um like check in. It's data, but it's not the end goal, right? Like if my business if I'm growing and impacting more lives, that's what I want. And I will also make more money from that. But um the end goal isn't like, oh well, I need to make more money. The end goal is how many lives can I impact? What kind of it's really about what do I want to do with my life here? I only got one life. I almost got two in a way. There was like life before rock bottom and life after.
So true.
And now, I'm constantly living in breakthrough of where am I going with this? What do I want to be able to do?
So true.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. Alex, you want to give us any last bit of information? And I do want to mention that you have your own show
Mm-hmm.
called Becoming Brave.
Yep.
So give us like a drive home inspirational message to pass on the summary of all of this, and then talk a little about your show, and then we'll
Yeah.
get this wrapped up.
So because we talked about confidence so much, I think the confidence piece, what I teach is that authenticity creates confidence. And we hear about like, being authentic, being vulnerable. The more that you try to gain happiness from other people and their thoughts about you, the more you end up denying yourself and the less confident you feel. So when you're going and trying to change your body or change these external things, you reinforce in yourself this belief that who you are is not quite enough, and that you'll be enough when you do these things, which has an inverse effect. You end up tumbling down like the opposite way you want to go. It sounds helpful to your brain in the moment, but it's not long term. The better thing to do is, that's going to be a lot more effective for you, is to say, hey, um, I'm I'm going to risk doing the thing that I'm totally terrified of. I'm going to risk feeling bad and like a failure. I'm going to risk having people not like me. And when you do that, you prove to yourself, because you're not going to die when people don't like you, or when you set a giant goal for yourself and you don't hit it. When you are willing to experience that fear, when you're willing to experience the discomfort and you get through it, you start to actually create through that a lot of confidence. You realize you're capable of more than you thought you were before. So start by, like, if you're working on you haven't even started your fitness journey yet, start by risking it. Don't wait to feel good. Go out, start it right now, and work on this new identity, this person that you're becoming, and live like that person now instead of waiting till the future. That'll create the confidence you're looking for. The confidence will help it make you more, or make it easier for you to keep doing these things.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is a journey, not a destination. Thank you for coming on the show, Alex. It was awesome, man.
Thank you for having me.